This interview is a part of the Oklahoma Historical Society's Oral History Program Living Legends collection. This interview was originally conducted in November of 1953. The interview was conducted by Mrs. Lucy Sitton. The interviewee is Mrs. Stephen A. Douglas of Wewoka, Oklahoma. This interview is being re-recorded on September the 3rd, 1985 for inclusion in the permanent collections of the Oral History Program by Judith Michener. The sound quality of this tape is not very good, but it is. The problems are on the master tape, and we've had to record it exactly the way it appears on the Living Legends reel-to-reel master tape.
Now, we're talking to who? It's Stephen A. Douglas. And how long have you lived here? I've lived here since 1897, November the 3rd. Were you married when you came to Wewoka? No, I came as a young girl. And you met your husband here? Well, I was here before he was. I came November the 3rd, 1897, and he came in February.
This is Mrs. Stephen Douglas reporting Wewoka history.
We came to Wewoka, Indian Territory, November the 3rd, 1897. My father, L.K. Sampson, and my mother, Lovey Sampson, myself, Pearl, and sister Ethel Grace, and my brother Rector, and 2-year-old little sister Marjorie, and our mother's father, John P. Minnick. We came from Republic, Missouri in covered wagons and was 3 weeks on the road. Our last night's camp was close to the Cody Johnson place northeast of here, several miles. And at breakfast time, my mother said we only have enough water to wash our faces or make coffee, and we said we'll take the coffee. And my father had made a previous trip and rented the Presbyterian Mission, so we arrived early in the morning and was delighted with the place. There were 2 houses in Wewoka, and a few were living in tents. We were lucky to have a place like that. There was a preacher, a Brother Drunken, whose home was in Perry, Oklahoma, that was sent there by the Presbyterian Mission Board. He preached at the Presbyterian Indian Church, a rock building across the street from where Henry Moore now lives. And he had been teaching some Indian children at the mission. On Christmas night, he took we girls to the church, to the Christmas entertainment, and everything was nice and we enjoyed it. And the church on the hill west of here, it's the same people. We had started to Wewoka when I was 4 years old from DeWitt, Carroll County, Missouri, but stopped in southwest Missouri at Republic, and we went to school there. We came to Wewoka, was moving into their, and then Wewoka Trading Company was moving into their new building, where the Security State Bank is located, and adjoining lots to the north. It was a large building. The bride goods and groceries were moved into it from their old building north of the railroad, where the furniture, hardware, lumber, yard, and other things were kept. The Ice Smith Store building was built in the spring of '98. Mr. Paul Coopmore came as manager and Steve Douglas as bookkeeper. The clerks were Jim Killingsworth, Sam Pack, Bert Smith, Jim Fleet, and Jim Lillian. The first time I saw Steve, the mother girl and I went to the post office and decided we would come by the new store and see what the new boys looked like. I said we will have to buy something, and she had heard her mother say there wasn't an egg in town in the last row, and so when I opened the door, I saw a big tub of eggs heaped high. I just let her walk ahead and asked. She said, "Do you have any eggs?" And one of the boys said, "Plenty of them." Steve was at the desk, but he walked up to was the front to take a look at the girls. She said, "I'll go home and ask my mother how many she wants." The next time I saw Steve, he asked me for a date. Oh yes, we had some parties, play parties, several out at the Button Brothers' home at Button, and that's where I saw Maud Cherry for the first time. Now Mrs. Fred Lester. We had some parties at the mission also. I find in old records where Wewoka has an interesting history dating back nearly a century, some of which is quite thrilling. Early maps in the War Department as far back as the Civil War shows Wewoka during the 40s and 50s of the late century, that this settlement was an important trading post, and on May the 13th, 1867, a post office was established here with Elisha S. Brown as postmaster. And on November the 1st, 1883, for some reason, the post office was discontinued, and from then on, the mail was handled at Wewoka. A post office had been created there January the 14th, 1880, and this continued to April the 1st, 1884, when the post office was re-established at Wewoka, with Andrew Brown as postmaster there in 98. The mail was, in 98, the mail was at the depot, handed out by one of the employees there. My mother had an uncle, June Davis, that freighted supplies here to Wewoka store from his home in Southwest City. That was quite a long time ago. He was found murdered. He had pictures out his horses, made his bed for the night, and was found dead. So our family had known of Wewoka for many, many years. In September 1999, I went to Wewoka, the Indian Girls School, I was going to the factory. Miss Anna Cricket was principal, Miss Casting intermediate, Miss Phil Tarkington primary, Miss May Holmes, a music teacher. She and I roomed together. She was also a matron on the 3rd floor. She later was Mrs. Walter Bonnie. As I said, she was matron on the 3rd floor. She had one dormitory closest to us that they like to have stomp dances. We would slip down the hall and quietly open the door, and every girl would be sound asleep. Couldn't even wake them. She had been there 7 years, and she said she had some girls that would crawl through the fences. There were business rooms on the 2nd floor, girls who would transom there, and she would go down standing back through the transom and stand where they went. And they were fat, and could hardly see too. Then we had 3 sisters that when we were home about every 6 weeks, they took the most all night to reach home. The father never should bring back the next afternoon. Mrs. Ice B. Davis had her daughter set to school there. Mother was Mrs. Jean Aldrich, May married Mr. Locke, Bess, William Piper, Irene, Mr. W.S. Key, and Maud. I don't know who she married, but she has passed away years ago. And Deborah Brown's daughters, Alice, married just east of here. They were long sermons with interpreters and interpreted by the Indian preachers. They were all day readings. We had dinner on the land, and they were good meals, and we enjoyed them. We enjoyed it. We had dinner out under the trees. The medical matron, Miss Alice Spear from Canada, always took something to eat as dinner was late after the sermons, 2 sermons long. First Baptist Church was organized in the courthouse May the 1st, 1900, where we had been holding services for some time. Brother Treadway from Callister came on Sundays to preach. All denominations worshipped with us. The church was organized the first Sunday in May 1900 with Brother Blake helped organize the church. The charter members were Mr. and Ms. John Shepherd, Mr. and Mrs. L.K. Son, who daughters Pearl and Upper, Pam Bridges, Eileen Grace Cruz, Mrs. Mary Everett, Mrs. John Philip Bridges, Mr. John C. Bridges, Mrs. Lisa Bridges, Mrs. Theodosia Shaw. I am the only charter member now. The Baptist Church building was built in 1909. The Presbyterian had the first church building here, but the Baptists were organized first. All the denominations worshipped at the courthouse with the Baptists. I have seen Reverend Brown elected as governor. Everyone that voted him found a line behind him, and the other candidate the same way. And the kind of wins. Have seen I've seen two whippings from the upstairs window across the street. They were something severe. The last execution was before we came. The tree was left standing for several years just on the corner south of the Swedish State Bank. Stephen had 4 children: Claude, lived in Texas; Tommy and Mrs. B. Lawson; June, Mrs. Temple; Stephen, Mary, Carol, and Comfort. We had 9 grandchildren, and U.S. Commissioner Henry Tate. We have 3 great-grandchildren, and U.S. Commissioner Henry Tate officiated at our wedding. The Presbyterian mission at my parents' home. 2 of my children was born in Indian Territory, and 2 was born in Oklahoma, all the same house. Dr. Lynn was here in 97. Left later, and Dr. Berry came for a few years. Then Dr. Lynn returned, and Dr. Van Zandt came next, and is sitting here at this time. Steve passed away the 21st day of April, 1950. And I have listed here some of the first the pioneers, and the leading in town when we came was Jackson Brown's family, Freeland Elliott's family, Houston Miller. L.A. Elliott's came in 1888, and the Jim Tuckers were here in 97 when we came. J.N. McMahon and the A.P. Shaw came in 1894, and Billy, the same Mrs. Sebastian, was 2 years old when they came in 94. And Henry Tate, U.S. United States Commissioner, Mrs. Dennis for Rural County Sheriff, and the John Shepherds, Guy Cutlets, and George Crump, and Arthur Seran came in 97 a year before, and the Cruz family, and Grace and two sons, and the Herrod family, Dr. Franson, and daughter Aunt Horace Baptist, and wife, son, Horace, and daughter Irene. And the first newspaper was edited by L.W. Smith and his daughter's name is Agnes. There's lots of other people, but I can't think of all the early pioneers into their family, and Opie. And
I think we've had an interview with Lula. She told us quite a bit about her family. And let's see, Judge Cobb came there just before Library came, didn't he?
I think so.
He came in 1905.
And the Cutlets came in about the same time.
How about the Browns?
Dr. Francis, well, they came about 1902, I believe.
3 years.
Because I know Helen was a baby. I think my Helen was a baby when the Francis came.
There were two families, cousins, weren't they? And one doctor stated he died, and then the other one was a newspaper man and went over on city.
And then Jennings came, Henry's mother. And she was a school teacher. She taught school when it came. She came, I believe, before any of the rest of Jennings.
There's a fellow named Smith, he was a postman.
And Mr. Smith was put in the paper. He had the first paper here.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought he was just the postmaster.
No, he was the, I should have all this down.
Of that, Charles, I know I want to read from cover to cover. Pioneers of this city. Pioneer of this city was lived here for 44 years. Was that
the Elliots? No, Mr. Elliots was, they were here when we came.
Were they?
Oh, yes. Mr. Elliott came here in, let's see, in 1888, on March the 10th, 1888, Elliott's came. Mr. Elliott came. Shut it off, I think. November the 1st, 1853.
The post office.
Yes, and from then on, the mail from Wewoka was handed to Sisaka.
And what did
the post office created there in 1880.
Sisaka was a bigger town than Wewoka. Well. And what did you tell us about the Baptist church and the first preacher?
I was at the mission at the time that the First Baptist Church was organized, and Brother Blake brought me in to this when they organized it. And there was 13 members, and 4 of them was my family, my father, my mother, myself, and my sister Ethel. And it was organized May the 1st, 97? No. 97.
Before the century. And you are the only?
I'm the only child member of the Baptist Church.
Left.
And
still, 2 of your children have the membership in that church.
Yes, 2 of my children are members in the church.
You were the first member of the joint.
I got my letter from Missouri. I was a Baptist in Missouri.
And at that time, wasn't the little Presbyterian church?
The Presbyterian church was organized next. I don't remember the year, but just 2 or 3 years later, a couple of years maybe later. And then after that, I believe it was about 5 years later that the Methodist church was organized.
I know the Methodist didn't
the Presbyterians. So the Presbyterians organized. They met with the Baptists. They worshiped with the Baptist, and so did the Methodist.
There were 2 churches when I
for several years.
And who are some of the Baptist preachers you remember in the past? You say Mr. Blake organized this
Blake was our pastor after we organized.
You remember his initials or his first name?
No, I don't. I ought to, but I don't.
And then what other preachers can you remember? I can't remember any. Not Baptist ones. Isn't it funny that we don't?
I can't remember many. Back over the years, I just don't remember. We had one teacher here had those girls, what was her name, Brother Vi?
That was Jerry Oliver. That was one of the most famous of the Baptist preachers. That was a long time in between, though. Did you always have a regular Walker? Maxine Walker's grandfather.
Maxine Walker's grandfather was one of the early preachers we had.
Came here with a batch of young children. Birdie was Maxine's father, I know.
He had 3 boys.
I'll tell you something we'd like to know. Something about the early social life. What did you do to have a good time? Did you have dances?
Well, real early when we was here, the first few years here, they had play parties out about Butler, and I know we had a big one out the mission one time.
What do you do?
Play parties.
What do you do at play parties? Spin the plate and all that?
No, we played Skip the Moo and those kind of plays.
Oh, it's what we call square dance.
They were kind of like square dance. Once we played band.
And you call them play parties?
Play parties.
Were there women's missionary societies connected with the church and things like that?
Yes, they was organized. After we organized the church, we had make one.
But the play parties were really?
Oh, yes, for that.
Do you remember some of the young things that played at the play parties? The Herrods and Mules?
No, the Herrods, that's where the Herrods came. The Lasters.
Mr. and Mrs.
Laster.
Right.
They were at the play parties, and the Butners, those Butner boys that lived at Butner.
Yes.
Their family knew. It's hard to remember all
What
that.
furnished the music?
Well, they played fiddles or something.
Do you remember any real fiddler's name?
No, I don't.
That'd be interesting. Wewoka's always been quite a musical town. Do you remember any of the early musicians of Wewoka? I remember the Longs and the McNabbs were very musical, and the Cranstons, old Dr. Cranston had that wonderful bass voice, and Mrs. Bessie Tucker had that beautiful soprano.
Yes.
Do you remember any of the other early musicians?
No, I don't.
I don't on the spur of the moment.
The Tuckers were here. Mr. Reese Tucker was here when we came.
We forgot.
And they had a little girl named Antoinette, but she didn't live very long. She died. And
wasn't there another Tucker here, or Mrs. Tucker was a widow and had twin daughters?
well, that was later on. It was many years later on. There's a lot of people ahead of her. And
how about the first school? Do you remember it?
Yes, Mr. Douglas was the, what you call it?
You mean Steve?
Steve was the, on the school board, he was the
the first school board. Well, I'll declare.
And it was a little building that's just west of where the Lord home is, where the Henry Moores lived.
Yes.
Just west of that.
I remember that. And do you remember any of the early teachers?
Well, Miss Farmer was one of the teachers in high school. Miss Hewitt was from Missouri, and I remember Miss Hewitt. And Mr. Whitney came. Mr. Ferguson was the first high school teacher here. Mr. Davis was president of the school board, as long as they were. And Mr. Ferguson always said that Mr. Davis hired him, gave him his first job.
Oh, is that so? And then afterward he became head of Wewoka.
Yes.
And how many grades did they teach? Do you remember?
Well, we had primary, intermediate, and then higher.
They really went through what we read about.
They had a primary teacher, an intermediate teacher, and then teacher taught the higher classes.
Went about through the 8th grade. Do you remember any of the early students?
Well, I forgot. I did know all the Indian girls' names, but I forgot them.
Mostly Indian.
But Miss Holmes and I played in Miss Donna room together, and she was
music teacher.
She was a music teacher, and then on the 3rd floor she was
She was a matron.
She was matron on the 3rd floor, and we'd hear the girls. They'd have stomp dance. In your rooms at night, and she and I'd slip down and try to catch her, but when she opened the door, there was all in bed sound asleep.
Didn't they?
They wouldn't be back to the room till they was back again.
They got awful homesick, didn't they?
No, I don't know. I think they did. They had a couple, 3 Indian girls that run off and went home once in a while, and it took them most of the night to go home, but their mother and father put them in the wagon. You had them back there right after noon the next day, always.
Well, I look how they were determined that they have an education. There's no story that a girl committed suicide out there in Wewoka. Is there any truth to that
No,
story?
I've never heard that. I knew there was a little boy. It was said that his little boy fell out of the 3rd floor window and was killed.
But he wasn't suicide.
No, he accidentally fell out, and then we put heavy screens on all the windows.
Well, boys didn't go to Wewoka, did they?
No, it wasn't the boys' school, but some little boy, I think, was there. Well, Brother Blake had his boys there, and the Davis girls were all there, and Governor Brown's girls was at school, and they had, there was one of the Brown boys, they were brothers. 2 of them went to school there.
Well, we surely do.
Well, one of them and 2 of the Davis boys.
Yes, they're still in town. I think we're about at the end of our time. So we surely do thank you, and Charles will be out to get the rest of these clippings.
This concludes the interview with Mrs. Stephen A. Douglas.